The web of false narratives. What if the narratives that you've been told about health were never meant to heal you but to keep you hooked for life? From cholesterol scares to miracle drugs, from media headlines to scientific studies, we are surrounded by carefully crafted narratives. Narratives designed not to free us from diseases but to tie us down to a lifetime of pills, prescriptions, and fear. In today's episode, we pull back the curtain from this web of deception and reveal to you how false narratives are created, spread, and sold to billions. More importantly, we'll explore how you can break free and stop being a prisoner of these lies. This is a conversation which modern medicine would not want you to hear. Hi, this is Vasudevan, author of Follow Your Heart, Your Brain is Stupid. Let's jump right into the show. Hi, Arun. Welcome to my chat show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Arun Prabhu. This is the 5th episode of this series, and today we are going to share with you how false narratives are created by pharmaceutical companies and the healthcare industry to create fear and get us hooked onto medicines, pills, and vaccines for life. Without any further ado, let's get started. Arun, how do pharmaceutical companies create false narratives that convince people that taking a pill is the only solution to cure them of any disease? Over to you.
Very good question. First of all, let us understand what is a narrative. See, narrative is a storyline which is created to create opinion poll in favor of you. Narratives are not only in medicines, anything. For example, if you are talking about a country, there is a narrative of the country. So that you get, आपके अंदर वो भावना आ जाए, that attachment towards that country, attachment towards the society, attachment towards the company. So it's not, any narrative is not bad. See, narrative is required. That is how you get attached to certain opinions. Fine. Now, what is the intention of the narrative? That has to be studied. If you study marketing and sales, so there are two driving forces which create any sale. Otherwise, we won't be buying anything. Animals don't buy anything.
Right.
So why are we buying? See, except human being, nobody buys. They want food, they will kill, they will eat as much as they want, and leave the rest for the others. They don't store, they don't need refrigerators, etc., etc. There are two important factors which govern any sales. One is fear, one is dreams. Now, for example, if a doctor tells you that if you do yoga for the next 3 months, you'll grow healthy. You will be fit and active. Now, that's one narrative. Right. The second narrative is, if you don't do yoga for the next 3 months, your health is going to fall and you might die. Right. Now, if you see, the objective is the same, that I want you to do yoga. But tell me which narrative or which instruction most people will follow.
I'm sure it's the second one. In fact, I commonly joke with my wife also. We see a lot of people walking, and there are some people who are very, very regular. I would tell my wife, see, this guy is walking. I'm sure there's some problem. Doctor must have told him that if you don't walk, you may die. So, absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree.
So, fear blinds you.
Right.
Fine. So now let's go back to Industrial Revolution. Like I always said, that whatever bad is happening today is because of the Industrial Revolution. So Industrial Revolution created mass production. Now mass production means that we don't require that much. Today people are eating more than what is required. So ultimately what has happened is, anything which is being produced or which has been discovered or invented, it has to be bought. Now if it has to be bought, you can't give them the dreams. You can't give them the dream that if you buy a fridge, your life will be cozy. I'll say, I don't want cozy. But if you say, if you don't buy the fridge, your food will get deteriorated. You will eat that fungus and then you will have bad health. And say, oh, I need the fridge. Fine. Got it. So coming back, let's go back that when did this chemical invasion start? This chemical invasion started in the late 19th century and the early 20th century, which is till date, it is catching up more pace. So what had happened was, before, if you see, let's take one case study. Say, let's start. Polio is one of the case studies, which was one of the first mass vaccination campaigns. So let's study that. If you go to Google, you will understand that before 19th century, there is no mention of polio. And now what they have given the narrative, they have changed the narrative to say that before 1910 or 1920 or 1940, 1952, there was a big polio epidemic. In India, there were 3 to 4 lakh patients every year. Now, my question is, you discovered polio later on, and how do you know that at that time there were 3 to 4 lakh patients? And if there were 3 lakh patients, why there was no epidemic or pandemic? So they created a narrative that aisa hota tha, and today they say that polio is gone because of mass vaccination.
Right.
Fine. Now let's first understand. This is a narrative. If you ask anybody, they'll say polio was a very massive disease जिसमें बच्चे, paralytic पैदा होते थे. So much so people died of because of this. And now, thanks to polio vaccination, we don't have polio anymore.
Completely agree.
Does that mean?
In fact, sorry to interrupt you. In fact, there are a lot of people who commented in some of our episodes on the vaccine thing. They said, no, if had it not been for vaccine, the polio would never have been eradicated. They have made that, and that's what they believe it. I don't blame them. It's a narrative probably which has made them believe that.
Yes, it's a narrative.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
The challenge with the narrative is subjective. Narrative is something like storytelling. You get emotionally bound to the story and you don't go do the fact check. Now I say any narrative, fine, go to the fact check. Please go and study before 1940s and 50s. When was the last polio pandemic? If it was such a terrible disease which killed children, let us study which was the first polio pandemic. They may not have the data, but they will always have that incident. कि ऐसा हुआ था. Because if there was any mass destruction, it will be recorded in any history. It's not even recorded. So which means what? People are not going into the history. What does narrative do? Narrative says, look like this. See, this is a beautiful picture. Now, for example, if I tell you, look like this, you will say, oh, Arun is sitting beside a palm tree. Wonderful narrative, everything. Because I have stopped you from looking at this side.
Right.
But when I remove like this, there is only one palm tree, and that too looks like a background. So suddenly the narrative changes when you study. Otherwise, and why these narratives were created? Let's understand. See, after Industrial Revolution, they started, the next bad thing which happened was fertilizers. They wanted mass production. So fertilizers. Now fertilizers has a lot of lead and arsenic and a lot of chemicals. At the same time, there was this DDT spraying also done. The thing which allopathic practitioners should understand that the enemy is not outside, the enemy is inside. If 2 people are sick, it's not because of lack of germ. The germs are in both of the people. The problem with allopathic studies nowadays, I'm telling you nowadays, not the old ones, is they say disease is because the germ is inside your body. That is the wrong fundamental. The disease is not because of the germ inside your body. The disease, I repeat again, the disease is because of inability to fight the germ in your body. If I'm here, I'm healthy, let me tell you, do my tests and you will find all the germs inside me. There will be a COVID germ also inside me presently. But वो शांत करके रखा है मैंने. I made it docile. Chup. But they are all there.
Right.
Okay. So we need to understand. Now, coming back to this, what had happened was they were fighting these germs and all because germs are outside. So DDT sprays, all these chemicals. Now, when you do such mass things and when it bounces back, what will be your narrative? Will your narrative be that, oh, sorry, we did a mistake? No. So what had happened was during the 1910s and all, if you see, a lot of fertilizers and all these technologies had come in, leading to mass ingestion of these chemically poisoned. आज भी होता है, but at that time we were not at all ready for this. If you have lead and arsenic intake, the first thing which you do is you get paralytic. So now you see the connection? So a lot of babies were born paralytic. Now you can't take the blame. So what they said, oh, polio. Polio became a havoc in the early 1900s, and 1940 and 1952 there was a pandemic, and that pandemic was also, let me tell you another very, a fact which will surprise you. Polio was never in India, it was in Europe and US. Number one, the so-called developed. And if you see polio क्यों होता है, they'll say open fecus, non-hygienic, this, blah, blah, blah. Now, India has always been, looked down upon that they don't have hygienic, they do open, उनका वो toilet system open होता है, they have unhygienic things. India में polio नहीं था. Polio was in US and Europe. Why? If they were the most cleanest countries. So it was not because of that, it was because of lead and arsenic poisoning which happened. Now to counterattack that, they developed polio oral vaccines. The narrative was, these vaccines will prevent the polio. But let me tell you, there is one more thing which we need to understand, where vaccinations fail. And that is the reason that human beings have survived so many pandemics and epidemics. It's not that there has never been epidemics or pandemics, there were. But how did human beings survive without the vaccine and without any chemical intervention? Was there is a phase of any epidemic or pandemic. How does an epidemic or pandemic happen? See, first, there will be a new type of virus, which will, maybe because of our immune system going down, suddenly we'll find that certain diseases have started, developing. It was in 1920 spine flu हुआ था. Spine flu क्यों हुआ था? Let me tell you. Spine flu इसलिए हुआ था because of the bad conditions which the world went through in the First World War. If you see, spine flu broke after the First World War. First World War, people were broke, people were mentally and emotionally weak, so the mass immune system had gone down. I'm repeating again, the mass immune system of the society had gone down, and especially in US and European countries, because India was not affected with the World War first. So swine flu was never there in India. See, I'm talking all facts, no narratives. Now you see, the moment I talk facts, narratives vanish.
Right.
And they had to science for it. Okay? So my question to all of them is, if it started from, US and Europe, and they were the cleanest, where is the connection? The connection is chemical invasion. Now they had to cover up this. So they covered up with a narrative that polio is a deadly disease which used to be there since long, and our oral polio vaccine droplets have stopped polio. Now what happened? After 20-30 years, they found that paralytic to फिर भी हो रहा है. Now they can't name it polio. Because if they name it polio, then they'll say polio. You only said that polio has been eradicated, but still there are paralytic children born. And let me tell you, there is no change in the number of paralytic children born, because the spike was because of the chemical invasion. Prior to that and post that, there has never been any change. So when I was telling that what steps happen is, when a society is affected by certain virus, the whole society, we work in tandem. So what happens is, धीरे धीरे जो हमारा immune system build होना शुरू होता है, and then we reach a peak point which is called the herd immunity. Please search what is called the herd immunity. The herd immunity means across society, human beings have developed antibodies for this disease. Now it will never happen. Any disease invasion or any epidemic starts like this, reaches peak, and then is accepted, and then it becomes herd immunity, and that's how our generations, they survived without vaccination. But because of this increase, the narrative is being said, for example in COVID also, that oh my God, everyone will die if you don't get vaccination. So a fear was developed, a narrative story was developed. Now what is happening is, everyone is getting vaccinated, but after they have developed herd immunity. Because any vaccine can be developed only once the disease reaches its peak. So, even if there was no vaccination, polio would have already dropped. Now, who takes the credit? Vaccination. So, vaccination is taking the credit, but actual what's happening is herd. Now, COVID se koi kyun nahi घबरा रहा है? Herd immunity is there. It's not because of vaccination. Herd immunity is there. HIV, which was 2010 or some HIV was made the villain. Now why are we not fearing HIV? Because herd immunity आ गया है.
Right.
ठीक है. But narrative is closing. See, this is the story. Narrative closes all the story and gives you a rosy picture. Vaccination. Oh my God, this was a disease. Vaccination. Now everything is done good. Now what happens is the repercussion. हर्ड इम्यूनिटी तो हो गया, वैक्सीनेशन आपको लग गया है. नाउ वैक्सीन क्या करेगा? यू डोंट हैव द आर्मी, यू डोंट हैव द जर्म्स इनसाइड टू फाइट बिकॉज द बॉडी इज ऑलरेडी known to fight. Now these chemicals will cause other diseases. So now we have two diseases. One, which is polio, which still is there. Polio is still there, but now they have named it vaccine induced polio.
Wow.
And then they named it, it is because of the oral vaccine, and they removed the oral vaccine from the list. Now there is no oral vaccine. Oral vaccines have been banned. My question is, why was it administered to every child if it is such a bad thing? Who's responsible for forcing people to take something which could have been naturally solved? So coming back, I'll make it very short. It has been long, but I want you all to understand, narratives don't tell the truth. Narratives hide the truth. My question is, see, one of the biggest questions which I want to ask is, today we have the best, services, the best technology. In the last 100 years, we have got all best. And we are still struggling to survive. How did we survive? At least we have 5,000 years of history. We never had the technologies. We survived 4,900 years without your vaccination. 4,900 is just a guess which I'm telling you. I don't know actually how many years we survived. It could have been 8,000 years. I'm talking the civilized human beings. I'm not talking Neanderthal man or those. That would have gone back to 20,000 or 30,000 years. We survived. We are alive today. That means we survived.
Right.
We survived eons of years without vaccination, without any side effects, just because we had built up herd immunities. Now, in the last 20, 40 years, we are saying that we will not survive if we don't have vaccination. Well, I don't know. I'm asking all those pro-vaccines this thing कि इसके कारण हम बच गए. तो भाई मुझे एक बात बताइए, what were 1900 से पहले, because 1900 के बाद this lot of this thing and now it's at peak. 1900 से पहले how people used to survive? People used to have very tough time. Let me tell you, you used to drink the water which was not filter water. You used to eat the fruits as it is. There was no system of fridge, which means cooked, you recook it, eat it. No fridge, no AC, no filter water, nothing. जो आज तो वो बोलते हैं कि तुमने ग्लव्स लगा के तुमने गोलगप्पा नहीं खिलाया. राजा महाराजा को भी हाथ से खिलाते थे. The gloves never used to be there. I don't think so. अकबर के वो जो बावर्ची था, he had gloves to, मैं तुमको ग्लव्स में खिलाता हूँ गोलगप्पा. हाथ से खिलाते थे. मेरे चाइल्डहुड में भी हाथ से ही खाते थे. ये तो अभी एक वो बन गया है, ग्लव्स से खाना है.
Yeah, correct.
I don't know, मतलब could I do justice? The narratives are all wrong, and we get emotionally attached to the narratives.
Yeah, the other thing which I wanted to ask you is, can you share with us how some so-called, scientific studies get manipulated to support the pharma agenda? As common men, how can we spot these, red flags?
First of all, let's understand again what is scientific study. Now, I'll ask people. People say that scientists studied this. So now I'll be asking you questions. Who are those scientists who are free? They have nothing to do and they are studying that, okay, let me study what causes COVID. Let me study what causes polio. And they are doing it with selfless, their intentions are selfless. They just want to do, samaj seva, society, social cause. Let's see, when you talk about Louis Pasteur and the person who invented those
Edward
rabies
Jenner
vaccine,
Yeah.
Edward Jenner. See, they were the people who selflessly did it. So it was actually started to cure. See, rabies vaccine was invented or discovered or invented, whichever way you may put it, to prevent people from not getting rabies after dog bite. Till date, it is after dog bite. Okay?
Right.
That's good. That's good. So I'm not saying that was bad. That's good. But what happened was, when you start mass production of any vaccine and there are no consumers. See, I can't ask dogs to bite everyone so that I get my customers. Fine.
Right.
So what happened was, what was started with a cause which was, social cause, became a business. And when it becomes a business, then what we do is, for example, if you want to treat COVID, you should treat the people who have got COVID. Now, my question is this: out of 8 billion people, if 70 lakh people died as of COVID, as per the data, I'm not authenticating those data. My problem is this: there are only 70 lakh people who are infected with COVID and died. But the mass, what about those 7 billion, people, 7 billion plus people who are fighting it on their own and surviving it? My problem is this: I have more vaccines developed than consumers. The problem now is, this is how they distorted. Now they created a fear that if you don't take the vaccine, you will have COVID. To the same person who fought the COVID during the pandemic and had developed the herd immunity. Again, coming back to the same analogy, मेरा बच्चा 99% लेके मैथ्स में लेके आ रहा है, फिर भी उसको ट्यूशन इसलिए कराना है कहीं वो निकम्मा ना हो जाए. अरे वो 99 लेके आ रहा है, उसकी संगत वैसी है. In spite of the संगत, in the same school, in the same environment, he is bringing 99%. He is good enough. Why are you forcing your tuition onto him? Narrative is what? What if COVID हो जाए तो? Now let me tell you the other aspect of it. Any disease, any pandemic, this is very important for the audience. People who have to die will find a cause.
Okay.
So no vaccine, no medicine, nothing can save a man who has to die. It's his problem, his immune system. It's like this: अगर तुम्हारा बच्चा आवारा गर्द है तो वो उसकी प्रॉब्लम है, फेल वो हो रहा है, वो उसकी, it's his problem. You can't blame so many students are, failing in the exam. So many students are failing in the exam is not because the exam is tough, because your child is not preparing for the exam. So the 70 lakh people who died because of COVID, which you say COVID, would have died because of anything, because they had a low immune system. If they had not died because of COVID, they would have died because of heart, blood pressure, heart disease, any other disease, organ failure, anything. Otherwise, every doctor say, I'll guarantee you that your person will not die. Why is it they ask, you just get you sign the letter that if something happens, we are not responsible, if you're so sure that, my medicine will cure them? So that's the narrative. Now you understand the narrative, how the narrative is made to सबको छुपाने के लिए. कभी वैद कभी आपसे नहीं लिखवाता. You go to any वैद, you go to Ayurvedic, any वैद, any मतलब old system practitioner, वो आपसे कभी नहीं, he'll never say, okay, sign that if something bad happens, we are not responsible. I am not responsible. कभी हुआ? Why only allopathy asks you to sign papers? This question is not for you. This question is for the audience. Right. Answer me. Why only allopathic doctors ask you to fill up so many forms? Whereas homeopathy, naturopathy, they only ask about you, your nature. And they understand, and then energy science, energy practitioner, all other practices apart from allopathy only wants to know about you.
What you're saying is the fundamental approach itself is different. When you're not going into the root cause about each person, a disease manifests differently based on that person's constitution, the immunity, etc. But we don't look at that, and it's a general treatment, and therefore you're not sure whether it's going to work or not work. It could have a very adverse effect. So therefore you need to take that consent beforehand.
Yeah, okay. Because they know something will go bad.
Mm.
So heart of heart, they know something will go bad. Then why are you administering it?
Right.
It's like this: I will test on you, but I don't take the responsibility. So narratives are always given to hide something which has gone bad. Today most of the people 30, 40 years, 50 years, people are dying of heart attack. And now now researchers are being made on that, and they have come to know that most of the early heart attack deaths is because of the spike protein which is present in our body because of the vaccines. The vaccines, there is spike protein, and that doesn't go out for even, it's been studied that it may not go out of your blood even after 22 years. So the risk is still 22 years. Now, because of that, and wherever it goes, if it goes in the brain, there'll be brain में कुछ clotting या वो होगा, and most probably the most sensitive organ is your heart, and that is why you see now most of the people are dying. Now, my question is, after COVID, why there is an increase of people dying early of heart attack, whereas it was not there before that? Now they'll say, oh, our lifestyle. People have got very bad lifestyle. That is why they are dying of
Then the other thing is
heart
the
attack.
stress, which is so most commonly used. Nowadays we are having so much of stress. Earlier days we never used to have stress. That's another reason that they gave.
What is the worst stress, that you are in your house and you are eating food and suddenly you hear the story कि गजनवी के force आ रहा है और सबको मार काट कर रहे हैं, they are raping the ladies and they are beheading the men, and you don't know when after Ghaznavi there will be Taimur the lane, and there will be so many people coming. This is not only in India की बात नहीं कर रहा, China and all Mongols will be coming. That one person, that Mongol, what was his name? I'm still not remembering.
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan. You don't know when Genghis Khan will come and kill you. Now let me tell you which is bigger stress. आपको सैलरी टाइम पे नहीं मिल रही है, एक स्ट्रेस, आपका बिजनेस नहीं चल रहा, एक स्ट्रेस, या फिर यू डोंट नो whether the moment you go home somebody will come and behead you and maybe rape all your women. Which is bigger stress? I'm being very blunt about it. Which is the biggest stress you're living, and you don't know when. We are living in a very peaceful era. Today there is no stress.
I think Arun, these are all excuses that we are giving ourselves instead of focusing. That's my read. Instead of focusing on
Narrative.
yourself, instead of bringing up your immunity, we don't want to do that. We are lazy, and we can start just saying, "Oh, children are under so much stress, and we are under so much stress, so much of pressure from the office, from the organization, all sorts of things." And then, as you rightly said, lifestyle. What lifestyle? I don't know. Yes, surely compared to earlier, there's more access to all these fast foods, and then we put the blame on those things.
That's the narrative which has been told, na. That's the narrative. See, this is all narrative.
Exactly.
हमको बोल बोल के हम मान रहे हैं. हम ऑब्जेक्टिवली नहीं स्टडी करें, बोल के मान रहे हैं. This is the problem.
Arun, some extremely influential people in the world also I've seen them supporting some of these narratives. My question to you is, why do they do that? And how can a common person avoid getting swayed by these things? Because when we see some celebrities up there, we start believing it to be true, right? Why do they do it?
Yeah, good question. Good question. 3 reasons. Reason number 1, they are part of the conspiracy.
Okay.
They might have their investments. Like pharma companies is now today's the best investment. So if they are part of that investment, so they will always be there. Like for example, Bill Gates, he has left his software business and he's more into this pharmaceutical, I'll say extravaganzas and adventurism. Because he's got investment in that. He'll make billions out of it. Number 2, these people are already victims of the narrative.
Meaning?
Victims of the narrative means they staunchly believe. See, बचपन से हमें बताया जा रहा है ना कि डॉक्टर जो बोलता है सही बोलता है, and it's not wrong. Like for example, बचपन से बताया जा रहा था कि टीचर और डॉक्टर ये are 2 ऐसे वो हैं जिनको हमें रिस्पेक्ट करना चाहिए, and I do respect them. Yes. But challenge अभी क्या हो गया है कि now neither the teachers are there, the doctors, they are representatives. See, 2 difference होता है. Teacher is a person who's done his self research. शिक्षक, Dr. Ved, self research. Again, we respect their research. Now they are representative of pharmaceutical companies, and teachers have become the representative of the books which have been prescribed. Book में अगर कुछ लिखा है तो they will not go against it.
Got it.
And the third reason is misinformation, or because of no alternative, that's the only alternative, let's accept it. So in all the three cases, except for the first is the deadliest one. He has the information, but is concealing the information because profit. The other two are pardonable because either they are culprits of the misinformation or they have fear that we don't have any other alternative. So यही करना है.
So the question
And
is, common
yeah,
man,
please.
when he sees the celebrities endorsing some things, I mean, the person will also start believing that it's right. If you want to break free from these narratives, what practical steps can we take to question and to investigate the authenticity of this information? So where does a common man go?
Absolutely right. For example, I was very fanatic about medicines at one time. Let me tell you, this was not by birth.
Okay.
At one time, I used to take vitamins and pills and everything. I was that same person. Fine. But I had that inquisitive mind. Today, it is very easy to find the truth because you can ask questions and ChatGPT or internet or Google will give you answers. There were days when you had to go to the library, dig out books, then try to borrow that book and read it for months and then come to a conclusion. So today, since there's information age, there's a lot of information, but I'll suggest two things. Never blindly trust any narrative. Don't trust my narrative also. Don't trust. We say don't trust. Use your common sense objectively, not subjectively. Don't do it because Arun Prabhu is saying or Vasu is saying. Check it out. We blindfoldly, oh डॉक्टर है ना उसने सही कहा होगा. Ask questions. Vaccination से पहले पूछिए, can you give me the ingredients of this vaccine? आप पोटैटो वेफर्स के पीछे ingredient लिखा होता है. Why can't you ask how much percentage of chemicals are there in this? Ask those questions. If he doesn't know, that means he has not done research. And if he has done research, he will never be able to force it on you because there are so many doctors who have lost their licenses in US because they came to know what's there in the vaccines and they didn't prescribe the vaccine, not prescribe the vaccine, and they lost their licenses and they have lost multi-million dollars in their practices, but they stood to that. One of the doctors who's not lost, but he's converted, followed Dr. Deepak Chopra. Dr. Deepak Chopra was an allopathic practitioner. Today, he's totally into naturopathy and Ayurvedic and this. Hegde, another doctor. So what I'm trying to say is, don't get blindfolded by who's saying. Get into what is being said, not who's saying. Use your intuition. You will understand that yes, there is something wrong. I'm telling you, mostly people knew that COVID was a false alarm. But वही है, fear overtook your thinking, your rational thinking. मैं इतना आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ, I'm not even a doctor. How am I able to tell you? Because rational thinking, logical thinking. I'm saying, boss, logic, it doesn't make sense to me. And never be afraid to die. जिस दिन मरना होगा ना, कोई नहीं बचा सकता आपको. ये चीज पहले ध्यान रखना, कोई आपका फेयर नहीं दे सकता. मरना है, कोई बचा नहीं सकता. जीना है तो कोई रोक नहीं सकता. So you don't need any extra. ये belief system लेके चलोगे ना, you are safe.
Perfect. Thank you, Arun, for your amazing insights as always. Viewers, so now we know much of what we hear about health isn't the truth, but narratives carefully woven to keep us trapped. In our next episode, we will dive into one of the biggest illusions of modern medicine, the promise of a cure that never comes. Are chronic diseases really incurable? Or is the system designed to make sure that we never break free? Stay with us. The answers will change the way you look at medicine forever. And that's a promise. Also, viewers, as Arun has said, what we have been sharing with you are based on logic as well as studies and experimentations with us. Okay. In fact, Arun, one of the persons who had watched it, he said, "Sir, there is somebody who's had this problem. Can you come and do consulting?" I said, "Boss, I am not a doctor. Just like Arun is not a doctor, I am not going to come and do consult. I am sharing information. You do your own research, and then draw your own conclusions. And if you think this is a narrative, so be it. We are trying to share with you what are the top sort of narratives which are binding us, which we start believing, and these narratives are really powerful. The choice is yours. What do you want to do with this information? Okay.
I'd like to add one thing on.
Yeah, go
I'd
ahead.
like to add one thing. How does a common man escape this is if something is sold to you, it's not good for you. If something comes from inside you to buy, why is ginger not being sold to you? Haldi not being sold to you? क्यों नहीं आपको बेचा जाता? Because that's good for you. Whatever celebrities endorse, with due respect to the celebrities, why is someone spending so much money on any celebrity to tell you what to take? Because he knows, or the advertiser knows, you will not take it otherwise. Which means the advertiser knows, heart of heart, you will not take. So somebody has to tell, I am telling you, so take it. So beware. All these aerated drinks are being told by the celebrities to drink, whereas they don't drink it. So the first thing which you should ask is, do you take it? For me, whatever I'm telling you, come to my house. I challenge if you find one tablet in my house. One tablet. Forget about crocin, Saradon, kuch bhi, Gelusil. Any tablet if you find in my house, search kar lo. And this has been for the last 15 years. Whatever I'm saying, I first do it, then I tell. So ask them, are you doing it? Let me tell you one more secret. Most of the doctors haven't taken vaccinations. I know so many doctors who haven't taken COVID vaccination.
No, it's a brilliant point that you shared, Arun, that ask them whether they are using it, and then you'll get your answer whether you should or you should not use it. Perfect. So, dear viewers, if you found value, do like and share this episode with as many people as possible, because we want to expose this scam. And you'll be doing us a favor if you do share with people in your contacts. Okay. And if you have any specific questions or you want us to cover any specific topic, please post in the comment section and we will definitely try and address them in the upcoming episodes. Okay. Thank you very much for being with us, and thank you, Arun, for your time. You know what's what's the topic for the next episode. Don't miss it. And but in case you're not subscribed, do consider subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss that episode. Okay. Thank you very much for being with us. Bye bye.
Absolutely. And please subscribe and also post if you have cured any disease in a natural way. You also tell the audience. Show your your solidarity that yes, there are certain diseases which we cured naturally. Thank you.
And also, guys, and this is a good point that you've made, Arun. If any of you in the audience, you want to be featured, you want to share your story, even whether you want to come live or you want to post your thing, I would be happy to talk about it. Do share your experiences. What are your thoughts? And in the next coming episode, we'll try to squeeze in your experiences. Okay, that will be more authentic, right? Rather than me and Arun sharing
Yes.
something. If you have something to share which will be help other people, please feel free to do that. Okay, bye bye.